There are two women getting ready for work on the same street, in two different cities, on the same Tuesday morning. One of them is checking her banking app for the third time today, feeling that small, familiar drop in her stomach when the number is lower than she expected. She doesn't remember buying half of what's on that statement. She just remembers feeling like she deserved it at the time. By Friday, she'll feel it again. The same drop, the same vague guilt, the same promise to herself that next month will somehow be different, even though nothing about how she spends has actually changed. The other woman hasn't opened a banking app in 4 days. Not because she's avoiding it, because she already knows what's in it. She knew before she woke up. She felt it in her hands the night before, when she counted what was left in a small envelope on her kitchen counter. There was no surprise waiting for her this morning, good or bad, because surprise is exactly what she stopped allowing into her finances a long time ago. Same income bracket, same cost of living, completely different relationship with money. The difference between them isn't 20 financial tips, a higher salary, or some secret investment account. It's 15 things the second woman simply never does. Habits so quiet, so unremarkable from the outside, that you could stand in her kitchen for a week and never notice a single one of them happening. That's exactly why they work. Nothing this quiet ever asks for willpower. It only asks for repetition. Today we're going to find every one of these 15 habits, cluster by cluster, and by the end, you'll know exactly which ones are quietly running your bank account into the ground, and which one you can start tonight without spending a single extra dollar to do it. If you've ever felt rich on payday and broke a week later, you need to hear this before you spend another dollar this month. The habits she never lets near her wallet. The first cluster lives in the smallest moments of the day, the ones that feel too tiny to matter, which is exactly why they matter most. She never buys something just because it's on sale. A discount, to her, isn't an opportunity. It's a test. If she wasn't already planning to buy it at full price, the sale didn't save her money. It talked her into spending some. She never lets a purchase happen in under 10 seconds. There's a pause baked into her day, a small private moment where she asks herself one question before anything leaves her hand. Am I buying this? Or am I just bored, tired, or upset? Most impulse spending, it turns out, isn't really about the object at all. She never checks out without knowing the total first. Not the estimated total, the real one. Tax, fees, shipping, all of it, before she commits. Never after. And she never owns more of something than she can actually use in a season. Not minimalism for the aesthetic. Just an honest refusal to let, just in case, quietly multiply into closets, drawers, and subscriptions she forgot she was paying for. She never lets a free trial run unwatched. The day it starts, she puts a reminder exactly 2 days before it ends. Not because she distrusts the product, but because she's learned that companies are betting on her forgetting, and she's decided not to be the bet they win. She never replaces something that still works simply because a newer version exists. An older phone, a slightly worn bag, a kitchen knife that still cuts. To her, these aren't signs of falling behind. They're proof she didn't fall for the story that says yesterday's things are suddenly not enough. There's an old Japanese idea behind all 6 of these, madanai, the quiet ache of watching something valuable go to waste. Even something as small as an unopened candle or an unused gym membership. It's not guilt. It's attention. And attention, more than any app, is what actually protects a bank account. The habits she never lets near her money's future. The second woman doesn't wait until the end of the month to find out how she did. She finds out every single night, in under 3 minutes, with a notebook that has nothing to do with apps, alerts, or automation. She never goes more than a day without writing down what she spent, not categorizing it later, not relying on memory, writing it the same evening, while it's still fresh enough to feel real. This is the spirit behind Kikibo, the century-old household ledger practice that asks 4 honest questions every month. What do I have? What do I want to save? What must I spend? And how can I do better? Not software. A pen. She never decides her savings amount last. She decides it first, before rent, before groceries, before anything else gets a say, and lives on whatever remains. It sounds small. It rewires everything. Most people treat savings like a leftover. She treats it like rent she owes to her own future, due on the first, no extensions. She never tracks every category obsessively. She sorts spending into only a few honest buckets. Needs, wants growth and the unexpected, because more categories just means more places to hide from the truth. 30 categories feel responsible. 4 categories feel honest. She's chosen honest. And she never reviews her month without asking why, not just what. Not to punish herself, just to notice the pattern before it repeats. This quiet end-of-month habit has a name too. Hansei, reflection without self-punishment. You don't cry over the spilled money. You just take notes, and the notes turn into next month's rule. She never lets a single bad week define the whole month. If she overspends on a Tuesday, she doesn't abandon the ledger out of shame. She writes the number down anyway, exactly as it was, because the habit only works if it's honest even on the days she'd rather it wasn't. Tell me which one of these you already do. Drop the number in the comments, I want to see it. The habits she never lets near her identity. This next cluster is the one most people skip because it isn't about spending less. It's about wanting differently in the first place. She never buys something to prove a season of her life is over. The new year, new me purchase, the breakup purchase, the promotion purchase. Because she's learned that a new bag has never once fixed an old feeling. She never confuses comfort with consumption. When she's anxious, she doesn't reach for her card. She's built other places to put the feeling, a walk, a bath, a phone call. So spending stops being her only coping mechanism. She never lets a single purchase define her worth for the day. No outfit, no gadget, no upgrade has ever made her feel complete, and at some point she stopped expecting one to. And she never buys the version of herself she wishes she were. Not the gym equipment for the person she hopes to become in January. Not the professional wardrobe for the job she doesn't have yet. She spends for the life she's actually living, today honestly, and somehow that honesty has never once made her feel small. She never measures her progress against someone else's purchases. Not the friend with the new car, not the stranger online with the renovated kitchen. Their spending tells her nothing about her own plan, so she's stopped letting it set the pace of hers. There's a phrase for the quiet confidence underneath all of this, chisoku, the practice of recognizing that what you already have is enough, not because you've settled, but because you've actually looked. It is one of the hardest financial skills to learn, and one of the only ones that never runs out, unlike willpower, which always does. The habits she never lets near her debt. The final cluster is the sharpest one because debt doesn't just cost money. It costs attention, sleep, and choice. She never lets a credit card balance carry past the month it was made in. To her, a card is a tool for convenience, never a tool for affording something she can't actually pay for yet. She never borrows to fund a feeling, a vacation, a celebration, an image, only ever to fund a plan she's already paying down on purpose, on a schedule she chose, not one a bank chose for her. She never ignores small debts because they feel too small to matter. She clears the smallest one first, completely, before moving to the next, because the relief of finishing something, even something tiny, is worth more to her motivation than the math of interest rates. She never lets a debt go unnamed. Every balance she owes has a specific number attached to it in her own handwriting, not a vague feeling of I'm behind. A vague feeling can't be paid off. A specific number can. And she never lets convenience replace awareness. Tap to pay, one-click checkout, auto-renewing subscriptions. She still uses them, but never blindly. Every single one gets checked, every single month, because invisible spending only stays invisible if you let it. There's an old idea connected to Dan Sherry here too. Not just letting go of physical clutter, but letting go of financial clutter, the forgotten subscription, the unused credit line, the debt you've stopped looking at because looking at it hurts. You can't fix what you've stopped looking at, and she's made a quiet rule never to stop looking again. Where this actually leads, none of these 15 habits, on their own, will make you rich. That was never the promise. What they do, quietly, over months and then years, is take money out of the dark, out of the place where it disappears without your permission, and put it somewhere you can actually see it, hold it, and decide what happens to it next. The first woman on that street isn't broke because she earns less. She's just never been handed any of these habits. Nobody ever sat her down and said, here's what to never do. The second woman didn't inherit some secret talent for money. She just built 15 small refusals, one at a time, until they became the quiet default instead of the daily struggle. She didn't wake up one morning, suddenly disciplined. She just stopped doing one thing, then another, until the absence of those things became her whole system. That's the part most people miss when they search for a better budget, a better app, a better income. They're looking for something to add. She found her peace by finding something to subtract. The world keeps selling the idea that the next purchase, the next raise, the next app will finally be the thing that fixes the feeling. It never has been. It was never going to be. You don't need all 15 today. You need one. Pick the habit from this list that made you feel something, a little caught, a little seen, and start refusing just once tonight. Not next month. Not when things calm down. Tonight, before you forget this feeling and go back to autopilot by morning. The woman with the envelope on her counter didn't start with 15 habits either. She started with the one that stung the most to admit, and built outward from there, the same way you're about to. If this made you look at your own spending differently, send it to the one friend who needs to see it before her next payday. She'll know exactly why. This video is for educational and informational purposes, reflecting cultural and behavioral patterns, not individualized financial advice.